Hey, what's going on? Luke here. For today's video, we're going to be talking about the Parramatta Eels and whether or not they are the real deal in 2021. Actually, I've just realised it rhymes. The real deal, Parramatta Eels. Kind of sounds nice, but also kind of sounds shit because it's the Eels. Just keeping it real with you. Now, I'm obviously making this video in the aftermath of their win against the Melbourne Storm, a game that I didn't think they would win. I thought it'd be close, but I thought Melbourne would end up winning. Obviously, it didn't happen. A late try to Sivo, and to be honest, throughout the game, I thought the Eels were on top for most of it. Storm obviously kept up with it, and I do think the conditions played the difference because it was absolutely pouring, and I don't think it played into the Storm's hands. But at the same time, the Eels were really gritty and they got the job done. And that's something that I feel like in the past they haven't been able to do. For me, they've always been flat track bullies, Mitchell Moses in particular, just Gutherson. In fact, the whole side. When everything's going good, the Eels were outstanding. The Eels were one of the best sides to watch. When everything's flowing, they're scoring tries left, right, and centre. You have Sivo, Ferguson, they had Michael Jennings, they had Wonga. Maybe not him. Actually, you know what? Let's throw him in there, Wonga Blake. He can score a decent try too. But after watching that win against Melbourne on Thursday, things just feel really different. That is a game that they would have lost in the past. 100% they would have. I know the Eels are a completely different side of Bankwest, but just coming up against a strong Storm side. I know the Storm weren't the best the other night, but they were still pretty decent, and they probably would have beaten most sides. But the Eels, they were just on another level. And I think it is a scary sign for the other contending teams, like the Panthers and the Roosters and the Rabbitohs, all those other sides who are competing for the premiership. Because the Eels, I feel like they've always had the squad to do it. They just haven't had the mentality to do it. They haven't had the confidence. Because like I said earlier, we've seen them absolutely pile on points against teams. We've seen them run up a score. That's never been the problem though. They've been able to make the top four the last couple of seasons, but it's once they make the top four and make the finals that they end up just bowing out in straight sets and not really doing too much. But the other night, despite it being so early on in the season, look, it was just a big win for them. Conditions were atrocious. The game was close. It was against Melbourne Storm, who are renowned to be pretty good in close games. I know they didn't have Cameron Smith, and like I said, like Brandon Smith hasn't been fantastic for them at hooker, but it's still a very, very strong side. The forward packs are great, but this Eels side, it stood up, and the guys that you want to stand up definitely stood up. Gutherson has been absolutely outstanding. All of his little try savers and just the effort plays. He always makes the effort plays. We know he's got the skill to go with it too, and he's really, really stepping up at this point in his career. You have Mitchell Moses, who's also stepping up. Now, I'll be the first to put my hand up and say I'm not a Mitchell Moses fan. I've never been. I've always kind of thought he was super overhyped, but I think he's ready to make the big jump to actually lead the side. I know in the past he's been someone who's always kind of been the leader of the side, but he's never really led. He's always like yelling at his players, and he still does that. I don't think he's been a good leader, but purely because he was a halfback, I feel like he had that responsibility of like, oh, well, I better lead the side. Whereas now I feel like he actually believes in it and he actually is leading the side. And then you add in Dylan Brown, who's no longer a rookie. He's in his second year. He looks more comfortable in first grade. The four-pack looks outstanding. Like that's their strongest point for sure. Their four-pack is so good. Reid Marnie, I keep talking about people who have gone to another level this year. I know it's only round 2. You don't want to jump to conclusions so early on, but he's been absolutely fantastic these first 2 rounds. For me, easily their best player, maybe with Gutherson, but for me, those Gutherson and Reid Marnie, easily the top 2 players for the Eels in the first 2 games. Reid Marnie's been outstanding. He's someone who the last couple of seasons it was talked about, oh, well, he's going to be the Queensland hooker going forward, and then all of a sudden Harry Grant comes along and it's Reid Marnie gone. But now there's actually going to be a bit of competition for Harry Grant. Obviously he's injured, hasn't been able to put his skills on show, whereas Reid Marnie definitely has. He's been out there, he's been leading from the front for the Eels, and he's been getting them on the front foot, giving good service out of dummy half to the halves, to the forwards, to the backs. Just in general been really good, and he's been backed up by the forwards. Junior Paulo's been really good. Nathan Brown's really good. The whole experiment with moving Madison and Sean Lane, I'm not sure. I don't know if that's going to be a long-term thing because, to be honest with you, I don't think they've been that effective, but still, that's some pretty classy second rows there. On the bench, they got Papali'i, who's been really, really good. And I'm not talking about Josh, obviously, at the Raiders, but this is Isaiah. Came from the Warriors last year. I remember a couple of years ago, he came on the scene. I'm pretty sure he was like the 18-year-old who had his mum was playing like the women's one for the Warriors. So you had him playing first grade and her playing the women's one. I think that's him. But regardless, I remember him being super hyped up. He was starting for the Warriors, and then all of a sudden he just dropped off, and then he finds himself on the outer and goes to the Eels. Coming off the bench, he seems to be a bit of an unknown signing, yet he seems to be so good as well. And I think even the fact that I'm talking about the bench players being important, I think it shows you how balanced this Eels side is. It's not like they're relying on Radradra or Sivo or whatever like they had been in the last couple of seasons. It was always pass it to someone and just hope they score. Whereas now, they're all just doing a little bit. They're all chipping in, they're all doing their job, and I think it's really good for the Eels, and I think it's a danger for the rest of the NRL sides. But overall, I think my point of this video was just to talk about the fact that I had written off the Eels. Before the season started, I thought they'd make the 8 for sure, but I just wasn't sure whereabouts in the 8. I didn't think it was going to be a top 4, but after the other night, I think they can do it. I really think they can do it. The only problem is they need to back up their performances at Bankwest. away from home. They need to be able to go to, say, Queensland and do it. We saw against the Broncos, they looked pretty bad. They looked absolutely terrible. And obviously they came back and got the win, but they were quite fortunate to get the win. And we've seen the Broncos aren't absolutely terrible this year, so it's not like the worst thing that could happen. But at the same time, you've got to be going and putting the swords into those sides. And the funny thing is, that's usually what they're known for. They do it to those sides, and then they come up against the bigger sides, and that's where they would fall. But I think it's clear to see for everybody that this is easily a step in the right direction for the Eels. Picking up a win against Melbourne, it's always good, no matter who you are, no matter if it's with Cameron Smith, without Billy Slater, that Cooper Cronk, whatever. It's still a really good Melbourne Storm side. And I think what impressed me was not that they beat the Storm, but the fashion they did it in, the fact that it was a tight game, one that they would usually lose in the past, and the fact that they got the job done. And that's what I feel the Eels have been lacking in the last couple of years. Just a little bit of grit, just being able to grind out those games. That's exactly what they did the other night, and they had to because the conditions were so bad. That's what they had to do. You're not going to go out and blow a team off the park, which is what the Storm did last week. And even when you think about it, that's what they did at the back end, probably the whole final series as well. They were just blowing teams out to start off the game, and the Eels didn't let that happen. The Eels got on the front foot, and in my opinion, they were the better side from start to finish, and they thoroughly deserved the win. Now, where did Eels go from here? You would like to think on the up, but we have seen the Eels in the past look really good to start the season, and by mid-season, they're going downhill. They're not going well, but I think this is going to be a different year for them. Well, at least that's what Eels fans would be hoping anyways, but I suppose history sort of tells us that they will go up and then they will fall eventually. But look, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I feel like we're going to be in for an interesting 2021. I feel like there's a lot of sides who could win it. There's no clear standout, so the fact that the Eels got a win over Melbourne after Melbourne had such a big victory over the Rabbitohs, it just shows you how open this comp is, because I really had like 4 teams who could win. Eels weren't one of them, and then all of a sudden in 2 weeks of the comp, I'm going, oh well, the Eels, they could win it. But it also shows you don't want to get too invested early on in terms of who's going to win the comp. They always talk about your March premiers and all that sort of stuff. It is a real thing. There's so many times we look at the first couple of rounds and we go, oh yep, Storm won last week, they're definitely going to win it. And generally I don't buy into the hype after 1 or 2 rounds, but this year seems to be different. I don't know why. Like I said, I don't normally do this, but I don't know, 2021's a weird year. Anyways, I've had my say on this topic. Leave in the comment section below. What are your thoughts of the Parramatta Eels in 2021? Do you think they're a top 4 side? Do you think they're a premiership contender? Do you think they'll even win the premiership? Let me know. Also, while you're at it, if you happen to enjoy this video, make sure you go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Turn on the notification bell. It's super important. Let's be notified immediately that I've uploaded. Don't have to worry about the sub boxes. We know they're pretty dodgy. So just go ahead and do that. You get a little notification on your phone. Way easier than having to go to YouTube and go, oh, where's Mr. Luke? Where's his video? Has he uploaded? Yeah, probably. So just do the notification bell. Leave a like. It's very important in terms of growing the channel as well, in terms of other people seeing it. So please do that. Follow me on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke on YT for the most part. My Facebook is just Mr. Luke. So go ahead, give me a follow, give me a like. So just type in what's on the screen. Anyways, that's where I'm going to wrap up this video. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you to the next one. See yous.